Welcome to The Aligned Singer. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. Today is going to be fun because we're going to be talking about a concept that has come up when I've been chatting with singers about vocal technique in lessons, working with singers in lessons, and chatting on socials with singers. And it's this, that whether you realize it or not, the highest part of your voice and the lowest part of your voice, your high notes and low notes, are connected. Now, I know that might seem confusing at first, but stick with me through this episode because it's going to make sense in the end. And I really think that empowering you with understanding what the heck this connection is or how it works in your voice can actually help you the next time you hit the practice room and start to vocalize. You can start to maybe become more in touch with the sensations, the sounds, and the things that are happening in your voice that you might not have realized are happening. So I'm so excited to enlighten you today. High notes, low notes, highest part of your voice, lowest part of your voice. They're more related than you think. I'm pumped. Let's get into it. So before we do, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Hockey. I'm a professional classical soprano and a voice teacher with an expertise in teaching vocal technique, just like we're talking about today. I'm crazy passionate about teaching technique because I had a misaligned voice teacher in undergrad and I graduated singing way worse than how I went into school. And I moved to New York City anyways, right after graduation, literally 3 days after graduation, to pursue a professional career in singing, knowing that I had to actually retrain my technique. So that's why technique is so important to me in my life and why I love teaching singers today. And I'm your bel canto bestie. I love that phrase. I've been trained or mentored is a good word for it in the bel canto lineage. So every single voice teacher I've had has been in this lineage. Bel canto is a style of voice teaching that came about when singing got super duper virtuosic in the classical realm hundreds of years ago, and it's still taught today. And this concept comes straight from old bel canto tradition, and I find it fascinating. As soon as I realized it and had a discussion with my own voice teacher about it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it just clicked. It clicked for me. So today and every time we get together here on The Aligned Singer, we are connecting the dots between where you are now in your voice and where you want to be, where you are now in your singing life and where you want to be, and in the behind the scenes when you walk off stage and you go home, what's going on there. We're connecting the dots from wherever you are in all those arenas to where you want to be. And before we talk about this relationship between your high notes and low notes, I have a little bonus for you. And you know what it is? It's flowers. So I primarily film the video version of the Aligned Singer show and pop it up on YouTube. On Spotify, you can see the video as well. And on this show, if you've been here with me before, I talk a lot about my garden. So I hope my camera stays focused, but I'm going to show you the flowers that I picked out for you today. These were grown from seed in my backyard garden, or shall we say flower fields. It's insane. And plants are actually a great way for us to think about this. The ones over here are dahlias. So imagine plants under the ground, and then I'll teach you your high note, low note connection. One of these was even named by my very own voice teacher. It's called Little Sunshine. Isn't that amazing? It's yellow with a poof if you're just listening today. It's very beautiful. And then there's one that's unnamed. So if you have a suggestion, let me know. If you didn't know this about me, I have a couple of hobbies. Hobby is a light word to use for the level of work I do in my garden. My garden is over three times larger than my home. It's way bigger than 3 times larger at this point, and I really, really, really like decompressing from singing gigs, rehearsals, voice lessons, growing my practice as a voice teacher out in the garden. So I'm so excited when I get to film during garden season. This is the first time I've ever gotten to do it, that you get to see the flowers that I talk about here on the Aligned Singer. So this is a perfect segue. I did not plan this when I was getting ready for today's episode, but I want you to think about a flower or a tree in terms of your voice. We're diving straight in. It's segue, but not a segue. We're going into it. So the roots of the tree, think about that, and the leaves of a tree. Or a flower, these flowers, let's see if I can grab one without dripping water all over everywhere. The flower has this beautiful stuff up top, which is the bloom that we see. We've got our stem, and then under the ground, especially with a dahlia, there's a whole system, kind of like potatoes. They're called tubers that grow under the ground, and those are gold because it's how you can divide it and make even more plants the next year. Your voice is so similar. One of the things that I've learned from being mentored by the best bel canto teachers that I could ever find is that voice and vocal technique mirrors the laws of nature. And that's one of the essences of bel canto. Y'all, I didn't even plan to say any of this. What is even coming out of my mouth right now? This is so freaking good. I'm so glad I recorded this episode for you. This has not come out like this before. So our voice and technique follows the laws of nature. And that is, again, a core tenet of bel canto training and technique, and the way I, as a bel canto teacher, lineage teacher, understand your voice. And this concept comes from bel canto, that the highest notes in our voice and the lowest notes in our voice are related. So go back to the tree or dahlia example. I'm so glad dahlias have finally made an appearance on this show. So think about how they're related. We've got the high notes. I think it's a perfect image because if you imagine the expanse up at the top of a tree, my dog is barking with her beautiful vocal cords. I think we're going to keep going because my family is visiting and they are going to calm her down. Sorry about that. That's Bella. She can be our mascot. So the top of the tree is big and wide, like Bella's barking. Who are we kidding? And so is the bottom, big and wide, under the ground. You can kind of think about your voice that way. I was once drawn a diagram by a voice teacher that I always remember. He's my favorite voice teacher. He's a genius in bel canto, and he wrote a triangle like this. If you're watching, you can see me do this. I shouldn't back away from my microphone though. Triangle like this going this way, and a triangle like this going this way. So I'll describe it. If you're just listening, look deeply into your earbuds, but I'll describe it to you. It's a triangle with the point facing down and a triangle with the point facing up, laying on top of each other. That's another way to think about it. Can you picture that image and then picture a tree? We go big at the top, big at the bottom, and then, or a dahlia, flower at the top, bigness at the bottom. I want you to keep that image in your head as I walk you through what the heck is going on with your voice. If things seem out of whack, or if you've lost connection to your low notes or high notes, I've seen it all in my studio. I've seen it all in my DMs, everything. So these parts of your voice are related, just like they are on the plant, just like they are on the dahlia and on the tree. If things go wonky, you lose connection, you're over singing, you're pushing, you're pressing your voice is too forward, or it's too back. Think about that. Then things are going to go out of whack in the related place in your voice. This is not a hard and fast rule, but oftentimes it might be 2 octaves apart. So like ah, that's 1 octave. That's another octave. That's a 2 octave scale. So if something is going on weird, really low, it's going to affect you really high, and vice versa. If something's going on weird way up high, it's going to affect you way down low. So if you're a singer who feels like you're not really connected to a part of your range, I've even seen singers in my voice studio where the notes just disappear. Low, high, sometimes middle, oftentimes middle. They just go away. And then we have to really slow down and really work on that. And by really work on that, usually we go tiny, trying to find teeny tiny connections that have probably been lost in their voice. But that's what's happening. If you've lost connection in that way, or it's disappearing, it's usually the other part of your voice. It can be the other. If you think there's hard and fast rules in vocal technique, think again. And if any teacher or anybody online has made you think, well, it has to be this exact way. Again, we follow the laws of nature. Every single one of these flowers is slightly different, even if it's the same exact type of flower. This is called diva. I'm pretty sure it's diva. It might be Ivanetti. Sometimes I get them confused. It's not the same as any other flower. So the little things that are happening from day to day and voice to voice are going to be slightly different. So do not try and fall into the trap of linear thinking, all or nothing thinking, right, wrong thinking when it comes to your voice. That's not how your voice works. Your voice is curvilinear. It is non-linear. It's curvilinear in nature, which again follows the laws of nature. Think about nature: cycles, patterns, revolt, curvilinear, interrupts, swirls around. That's what your voice is like. But I want to again say, oftentimes it's this 2-octave thing. So in my voice studio with a singer, I love when we get to do exercises that go that 2-octave span. Again, like, Frankly, I didn't warm up today because I knew I was speaking most of the day. I'm like, oops, I should have warmed up. But this is a warm up. That's what it sounds like if I'm just starting to warm up for the day. That's never, ever what I start with or what I start a student with usually, but that's one that shows you how the low and the high are connected. And notice that exercise, if you're a student of mine, we may have done it. In the middle, they're integrating with each other. So here's another amazing, if I do say so myself, bel canto concept that I started to hear a long time ago in undergrad, I think, so 22 years ago, and has followed me throughout my vocal journey as a pedagogue, a voice teacher, and as a professional singer. And that is that when I first heard this, I was so young and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This sounds so hard. This sounds like so much work. But each note in your voice, stay with me. I know this might be a little bit confusing, but just stick with me. Keep listening. It's going to make sense. Just let it fall into your mind the way it should. And it's going to help you in your singing, I promise. So each note in your voice is its own unique mixture. When I'm with a student, I will often teach this as another concept called, this might be controversial, but this is how I think of it. It's called appoggio. Appoggios, not controversial. We all know this as voice teachers. It's this leaning feeling, this engagement that you get, especially right here where I'm pointing to in my body. I hope you can see it right under the rib cage at the base of the sternum. We call that appoggio, which is the Italian word for like leaning. And in a voice lesson, I will often have a student lean. It depends on what's going on with their voice, but sometimes, and not every student needs this, by the way, but if we need to find more connection to that area, which could be something that affects your super low and your super high and gets those out of whack and out of balance, we can lean up against the wall where you like press against the wall, or lean against the piano and really feel yourself pushing out while you're singing and exhaling air, singing air. It's called appoggio. So we use it as a concept for engagement with that diaphragmatic breath, full engagement with your singing. But I think of it as this lean or a mix, an appoggio with each note in your voice. Each note has this little lean for this, lean for that. And I think of it as, if I boil it down to the raw basics, this is not exactly, I don't think words, I hear sounds in a voice lesson, and we adjust based on what the sounds are, not really based on language of what I would explain it as. But if I needed to explain it to a singer, and I want to explain it to you right now, I would say that there's this leaning of the high part of your voice and the leaning of your low part of your voice that have to be together in order for you to create your best sound. Let me give you an example. I sort of wish I would have led with this. I feel like I say that a lot on the Online Singer this way, but I wanted to give you an example of how this shows up really, really often in singers. Really often, so often that sometimes a singer will comment on social media or send me a DM and I'm like, I know what's going on, and it's this. And I didn't even hear them yet. And I'm like, this is what's going on. So if a singer, if you love to sing musical theater or love to sing pop and you're singing a lot in your middle voice, this is so funny because I feel like I should be at my piano, one of the pianos for this, my studio or here at home. So if you sing in middle voice a lot, which I can just show you is like, ah, those notes in your voice. Of course, I'm a soprano, so that's my middle voice. But if you sing there a lot and things are starting to get out of whack, again, out of whack, I feel like I'm going to say that 17 times in this episode of The Aligned Singer, but if things are out of whack, like it's really forward singing, like, like you haven't quite figured out how to use your Broadway mix yet, or maybe you're trying to learn how to belt and that's carrying up. Oftentimes, if things are wonky there, it's because, I know this might be confusing, but this is it. It's a great example. Oftentimes, if your belt is feeling, and you might not be a belter, you may be a classical singer like me, but it's helpful anyways to hear. If it's feeling like screamy or yelly or you're super duper fatigued when you're belting, practicing that, it often indicates that you have an atrophied or like a not a very good connection to head voice singing. Head voice singing is our main mamma jamma as classical singers. I sing in head voice all the time. I rarely actually even get to use a chest voice when I sing. But if I lost connection or was under singing in either of those parts of my range, my whole voice would go out of whack. The whole thing. I don't know exactly how, but high notes would be oversung. Low notes could be oversung or undersung. High notes could be undersung. My middle voice could be way out of whack and start sounding wonky. That's happened to me at least once or twice in my singing career. And I'm like, run to my voice lesson, run to my voice teacher. Like, here's what's going on. Let's get to work. And we always line it back up. Everything is solvable. I always tell you that everything is fixable. So that's one example from pop in musical theater. If you're over singing, I've heard it. I've literally heard my singers do it and be like, do you have any videos of you singing this week? Like in the car? And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll listen. I'll be like, oh, I see what's going on. And interestingly enough, once I work with the singer, and maybe this would apply for you, in head voice, opening up that part of their voice, things start to fall into place again, and they start to get the beauty of their sound again. Or let's say somebody only sings. I've seen this a few times. This is much more rare because that which we do as classical singers happens to be a little bit more rare in the realm of singing. But I've heard singers, at least 3, I'm literally thinking of 3. They're all treble singers. They're all sopranos. And they mostly sing in head voice. And I'll be honest with you, all 3 of them sound so beautiful. It's such a good sound, especially one that I'm thinking of right now. Such a beautiful sound. And it's just like, I feel like fairy dust is on me when they're performing. But those 3 singers, I know all 3 of them. Isn't this amazing? all three of those singers, though they have vastly different sounds, it's beautiful in head voice, but they want to only sing in head voice because that's the repertoire they love to do, whether it's Fauré or Bach or Handel or you name it, classical. Choral singing, two of them love to sing choral music, so they're cultivating, that's the word I love using for voice, again, it mirrors nature. They're cultivating head voice a lot. And then what happens in all three of those treble soprano voices is it's so hard for us to open the door to chest voice. But the problem that all three singers share, fascinatingly enough, is I'm always trying to draw more sound out of them. Like, I know it's in there. And all three of them, we've gotten somewhere, but not fully there. And it's because they're avoiding singing in chest voice. They need to do it more. So you might fall into that camp. If you love singing choral music and you love classical music like I do, you may be singing this gorgeous, light, heady tone in head voice, and you're starting, like the door is starting to close. We can always reopen it, but the chest voice is like underutilized. I use the word atrophying, underutilized. And what that's doing to that singer is affecting the bigness and the presence of sound in her upper range, all three of them. And so we patiently, I just thought of a fourth one. These are more examples than I realized I had in my very own voice studio. All four people, we have to patiently and lovingly start to re-engage with chest voice, which, let me tell you, it's not that common. It's really not, even though I just thought of 4 singers that I work with. It's not that common that chest voice fades away and it's hard to do. But if that does happen, what's happening is, this is a quote from my own voice teacher, a semi-quote. We're losing the thread of chest voice. Do you remember earlier how I said when I was an undergrad and I started to hear people talk about bel canto technique, and they were like, well, every note has this little lean. What I didn't say before, I don't think I said this before, every note in your voice is a mix. That's true. I made a video on it once on social media. It did not go viral, but I wanted it to, because this is such an important concept. Every note in your voice has a mixture and a blend. Again, don't get caught in the trap of linear fixed thinking. That is not how it works. But you do need to realize that there is a mixture. And if we take the 2 most basic registers, especially for sopranos, mezzo-sopranos, etc., but I see this in my guy singers as well, tenors, basses, and baritones. If one part of your voice is off, the other part is right, that mixture, you see what I'm saying? On every note, it's going to be wonky. Everything starts to go out of whack, right? So that's really the essence of the connection between the high notes in your voice and the low notes in your voice. Anything that's screamy, screechy, out of whack, not coming out when you want it to come out, maybe not coming out at all, or maybe coming out really softly and it's not strong, then you're probably pushing against it. Like, be strong, be strong. Don't do that. All of that, whether it's up high or down low, has an effect on the other octave. It has a direct effect on the other octave, 2 octaves above usually. So the high G, the low G. Usually that will happen on those pitches. And there's one more thing I'll share with you before we depart today. And it's that I asked my mentor, my voice teacher, about this. And he said a couple of months ago, it's like harmonics on a violin. And I thought, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. So if you don't know what I mean, I played violin all through school, all through grade school, middle school, high school, and a little bit in college. And I still play to this day from time to time. And I got really good at it. And you're able to play one note, like a high note on a string, and it resonates another string below it. It's called harmonics. So it's like harmonics on a stringed instrument in our voice as well. And because our instrument is physical and not made, for example, of wood and strings, steel or gut strings like a violin, I didn't realize that was the case with us too, but it is. Isn't that fascinating? So whatever's happening in one part of your range, up high or down low, is affecting the other part of your range. And this is the encouragement that I want to give you. This conversation has happened a lot lately, and so this is the encouragement I wanted to give everyone that I've been chatting about it with, in lessons, outside of lessons, and with you. It can feel really yucky to actually start to go back into a part of your voice that you feel like is really weak or doesn't sound good, or it seems like you're stuck in one gear and that gear is just loud over singing. It can feel really discouraging to have to go in, and this is not for you to feel discouraged, but I know that this happened to me, so I want to share it with you. It can feel discouraging, but detach from the judgment. I say this a lot to singers and my students. Detach from the assessment. Your ability to vocalize and access little sounds again has nothing to do with, well, it does have to do with your ability to succeed because it's going to help you succeed, but it's not an assessment. It's not for you to judge and assess, like, am I a good enough singer? I'm singing this part of my voice that I hate using. I feel terrible. This doesn't sound good. And then this is the toxic story that you have to detach from. And that means I'm not a very good singer because it doesn't sound good right now. My dog is barking again. Oh my gosh. She's mad because you thought that about yourself once. Whoever it is that needed to hear that, you just heard me say that. Bella was just talking to you as well. So don't be discouraged. Take the stories away. That it doesn't belong in when you're cultivating your technique, when you're practicing technique, when you're vocalizing. It doesn't belong there. And I know you want to avoid this stuff in your voice. If you're like, oh, but it doesn't sound good and it makes me feel like I'm not a good singer, just try and remove that narrative and do the work and just show up to do the work. You can think of it as functional technique. You can think of it as technical work. Those are the labels that I use. This is functional singing. This is technical work right now. And that can take the charge out of it because you're not performing when you're working on this stuff in your voice. So I hope that encourages you, especially if you've been avoiding a part of your voice that's kind of shrinking or it's not really coming out very much. I think you need to hear that. So there you have it. This was our simple exercise on this one exercise. Our simple exercise. I love that. That's coming. Don't you worry. This was our simple deep dive into how the high part of your voice and the low part of your voice are connected and have this relationship with one another. And a couple of the things that I want to remind you of is your whole voice is a mixture. So every single pitch that you sing has a blend of these two things in it. And I also think of it as a leaning of, let's say, head voice, leaning of whistle tone, leaning of chest voice, appoggio. We talked about that too. And why don't I leave you with this? There's a flower that's not named yet in my garden. I like breeding new varieties of dahlias from seed. And this is it. I discovered it last year, and it doesn't have a name. And while I introduce you to this flower, I want to remind you of the triangles image that we talked about today, the tree image, and of course, the dahlia image. Again, so glad my dahlias finally made it into the Aligned Singer world. So if you want to continue this conversation, that would be delightful. I love talking with you. So you can find me on social media at Voice Teacher Sarah. I'm on Instagram and TikTok by that name. And I'm also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple for this very show, The Aligned Singer. I'm so thrilled that you're here. because this shows me that whatever's happening in your voice, even if it's tricky, or as I said, wonky, was that the 17th time I said it? Anything that's wonky in your voice is solvable. And the fact that you're here means that you're ready to start working on it and up-leveling your whole voice, your mindset, your singing pursuits, your career, if you want a singing career. And so I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so happy to connect with you. If you want to work with me on your technique personally, just Google this phrase, voice teacher Sarah Hockey, and you'll find my website. It's also linked in the show notes for the show. And we'll leave it there for today. Have a wonderful day, and I wish I could pass these flowers right through your earbuds or your screen, because you deserve them, because your voice is amazing and unique, and you're the only one that sounds like you. So we got to get that voice out into the world. We've got to get it nice and balanced, all the different places, and get it ready to get on stage. If nobody told you yet today, I want to remind you and tell you that I believe in you. If nobody said that today, I did. I believe in you, I believe in your dreams, and I believe in your ability to continue to improve and progress your technique. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.